All right, welcome everybody to the Sapling Edition of Evergreen Perspective. I am here with another charter review candidate in our series, and we got John Zingale. Did I pronounce that right, John?
Nope, that's okay. Zingale like rally or valley. But then again, most people mispronounce it. That's why I tell my students just call me Mr. Z.
All right, Mr. Z, tell us where you're running and what position you're in.
Yeah, so I'm running North Clark County, District number 5, position number 1 for the Clark County Charter Review. And
Give us a little bit of your give us a little bit about your background. How long have you lived in Clark County? What's kind of your thing?
Yeah, so I have been a teacher for Vancouver Public Schools. This is my 13th year. And we originally was living across the river in Oregon, but after a couple years with the district, my family and I moved north because we liked the school districts. We liked the idea of raising our kids here and stuff like that. And so we journeyed here, I think, to Clark County and Vancouver in 2018. But I've been working for the school district since 2013, and really embedded here. And one of the cool things is where I teach, because we're a magnet school, I actually see kids from across all of Vancouver and even Battleground. And so I get to meet a lot of families from all over Clark County.
So I know you've ran for an office before. What was it that made you want to get involved in local government and public service?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a teacher and I teach social studies. So really, civics, I teach it literally every day. Actually, I'm teaching a unit right now on Washington state government and local government and all the county council and all the different things, because I see the impact that it has on our everyday lives. I also run our field trips to Washington, D.C. Every other year. I've taken over 230-ish kids, across the country. And being a social studies teacher, I want to make sure that I'm creating good citizens. I want to make sure my students leave my classroom with a sense of what the government does, what it doesn't do, and how to be an active participant in all of it.
That
That's
that's a good
yeah.
segue into why don't you tell the voters in your own words kind of what the Charter Review Commission actually does? What are they actually going to do?
Yeah, it's kind of like, if I'm gonna frame it back to my history, is it's like the Constitutional Convention, and we can pretend we're Alexander Hamilton proposing changes to create a constitution, because that's what the county charter is. It's obviously we have to follow state law and federal law and things like that, but this is our constitution for the county, and it sets up the branches of government, from the county council to the executive branch, and the county manager and those things, the non-elected positions. It sets up the judicial branch with how the judges work. And so what I like about the home rule charter is there's a group of 15 of us that would look at this every so often. You get people from all different walks of life coming to take a look at the charter, and we make amendments and we propose those. They don't actually go into effect, but we propose those to the voters. And so ultimately it's the people of Clark County that get to say yes or no on this. But it could help us function very drastically if certain things are done, but also sometimes less is more. And that's what I'm excited to see. Should I be elected, is to what other people are hearing from their constituents in their areas, because where you live is different than where I live, and there's different needs and different wants by the people we live around.
And sure, I mean, why does the charter matter to everyday residents? Like, as a resident of Clark County, why should I care about what's in the charter? It doesn't set policy, right?
It does not set policy, but it can change, like, whether a position is an elected or not, and that can play a role. If somehow we decided, like, hey, this, I think, was the court clerk. People have been talking about, like, well, should that be elected? Should it not be elected? being an elected person changes, what you do on the job sometimes. Maybe you're less apt to do certain things in an election year versus in a non-election year. Um, and it can allow different things. I know one of the proposals over the years has been ranked choice voting, and whether that should be the way things are elected in the county. It can determine, um, you know, it sets up the basic structures, and so it's not necessarily sexy by any stretch of the imagination, but these are the nuts and bolts that make the document work and make Clark County work. And so, you know, it matters because you shouldn't just elect someone that's gonna promise something that the charter can't actually do. And I think it's good to have people from all different walks of life involved in this, from teachers to uh, business owners to stay-at-home parents. Right? Everyone's going to come to the table with different perspectives of what they want from Clark County and how they think it should operate.
All right, so with that piece there, I mean, are there any specific pieces or amendments that you'd like to see get extra scrutinized, or is there something that you're looking to change?
You know, I, Change not necessarily, because I think we need to look at everything from a 30,000 foot lens first. I think the more I dive into the different issues, I might change that. But like I said, I know it's been proposed to change the county health manager to an elected position instead of an appointed one. It's been proposed to change the county clerk from one to the other. It's being proposed that the county council has to have a super majority vote in order to do anything with taxes, and I flat out stay against that. Anytime a supermajority is called to enact policy, that's undemocratic. We are electing the county council to do their job, and when we start to go into these supermajority realms, where now like a minority of people hold all the cards, that's anti-democratic. And so I will stand vehemently against that, because I feel it goes not only against the ideals of Clark County, but about the founding fathers, and the founding documents that our country stands for.
Right, and so with that said, obviously there's a lot of divisiveness right now in politics, local and nationwide, and this is a nonpartisan position that's taken some, very partisan turns. There's going to be some
Hmm.
disagreement in that room amongst commissioners. How do you deal with uh, when you really disagree with somebody in a strong manner? How do you deal with that situation?
I think it's important to hear people out. That's the one thing. As a teacher, I deal with parents and people of all walks of life, and you have to be able to listen and hear what they're trying to say. Sometimes the issue isn't what they're being so angry about, but there's like an underlying piece to that. And I think most people just want their voices to be heard. They want to make sure that they have a say in what's going on. And so the big thing is to kind of like, I have to do it every day, is, sometimes you have to play mediator and, just sit back and listen. Um, and then sometimes you have to deal with people in groups. Sometimes you have to deal with them one on one. I just there was a thing with a colleague the other day, but we resolved it because we sat down, we listened to one another, we spoke our truths. And sometimes you have to realize that it's not personal, right? Like it's not personal attacks, but we're there to, in theory, everyone wanting to do this wants a better Clark County, but their version of that is going to look different. Um, and the ultimate goal, I think, is to make a Clark County that's sustainable and for generations to come. I'm raising my kids here. I want them to be able to settle in Clark County, should they choose, not just their generation, but the generations after them as well.
So with that in mind, what if elected to the commission and it's a 2-year term? At the end of your term, what would you consider a successful term in this position?
I think bringing amendments to the table that, you know, it's hard to say that just, I don't want to say just pass, because sometimes You want to bring something different to the table, and see if it is the right time for something. But also, I think the big thing is I want to be a part of making sure that we function properly. And sometimes that might be like having an amendment out there that people reject, and that's okay. Um, and maybe it's finding something that works better. I think part of this is also looking at other places across the country and across Washington that also do a home rule charter and see what's working for them, and being open to try different things. If something's working in another place that's very similar to Clark County, I think it might be worth looking into bringing something like that here. Um, you know, and I think we just have to be open to new ideas, but we don't want to just throw whatever we want at the dartboard and throw everything out to voters, because then that's not fair to them either.
So how do you get that community input? How do we get the citizens? What's your plan to bring them to get their information or what they want to talk about?
Yeah, I think education is very important to all of this. I think a lot of people don't understand what the Clark County Charter is. And so I think a lot of this would be, trying to set up mini town halls within our district, to help educate people, but also then to hear what they have to say. It might be tabling at Esther Short Park and listening, where do people migrate to? Making sure we're at Ridgefield's cultural festivals and things like that. We're out in Camas days, right? And listening to what people have to say, but also like setting up a table and saying, what questions do you have about the charter? And allowing people that space to just learn about what it is. Because maybe we haven't thought of something that someone else has, or their perspective brings something else to the table. And so I think it's outreach, it's education, and then listening.
So as we begin to wrap up here, what's the one thing you want voters to know about John that if they're going to their ballot and this is the reason they want to mark that box?
I mean, I care about Clark County. I dedicate every day of my life right now for the last 13 years of teaching the kids in Clark County. I'm good at what I do. I am actually the regional teacher of the year. I have 6 different history teacher of the year awards. I know civics. I know government. And I think I can bring a level-headedness and creative and innovative mindset to all of this, where we can help move Clark County forward. I love Clark County. It's why I chose to live here. And I want to make sure that it exists. I dedicate a lot of my time to working with Fort Vancouver, the food banks, um, all of these different things. I'm there at sporting events with my kids. I'm raising my family here. All of this matters a great deal. And, it's why the Columbian has said that I should be elected. It's why I have endorsements from Senator Adrian Cortez. It's why I have endorsements from the mayor of Battleground. It's why I have endorsements from the mayor of Ridgefield, Councilor Sue Marshall in the 5th District. The people that the 5th District have already elected have endorsed me. And I think being a teacher gives me a unique mindset of knowing lots of different families and where they're coming from, and also like a way to think through things logically, and not just let emotions drive everything.
And so if people want to learn more about you and your campaign, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, I actually got a phone call tonight from the voters guide. They called me directly on my cell phone. It's 360-553-9712. You can also email me at electjohnzingale at gmail.com. And you can visit my website at zingale4clarkcounty.com. So it's ZINGALEFOR and then Clark County, CLARKCOUNTY. I've got a Facebook as well, so you can check me out there. But I want to hear from people that have questions. Obviously, like I might go to voicemail occasionally, but and I might miss it. But call me, and you'll get a phone call back.
John, man, I appreciate you coming on to the podcast and sharing about you and your passion for the charter review. Good luck to you, and I'll see you out there on the campaign trail.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks.